On a Tuesday morning, Marcus backed out of his driveway outside Allentown, Pennsylvania. He thought he was heading into another ordinary workday. He did not know it would be his last day in the job he had held for 6 years. Marcus is not one identifiable worker. He is a composite character used to show what a public layoff record can mean inside one American household. Across the United States, covered employers send advance notice of certain planned mass layoffs and plant closings. Many states publish those records, although there is no single federal database and each state presents them differently. They do not track stock prices. They do not track consumer spending or inflation. They identify employers, work sites, planned layoff or closure dates, and often the number of people expected to be affected. Most Americans will never read one of these notices. But, before Marcus heard that his position was gone, the warning signs were already beginning to appear. Why? Look out your window on any given Tuesday morning. You will likely see a delivery truck. A familiar logo. Amazon. FedEx. Walmart. Someone in a uniform walking up to a porch, dropping off a cardboard box, and driving away. It is the heartbeat of the modern American economy. Smooth. Predictable. Many of the things we want can appear at our doorstep in less than 48 hours. But behind that seamless experience, companies are continuously adjusting the networks that make it possible. By early August 2026, state-worn records showed layoffs and closures scheduled to take effect that month across logistics, transportation, food processing, healthcare, and manufacturing. Separate 2026 state archives also contain notices connected to Amazon, Walmart, and Federal Express. But these are site-level records. A notice involving one facility or business unit is not evidence that an entire company is collapsing. Many concern the people moving goods, managing facilities, and coordinating supply chains. To understand those entries, we need to step away from the screen and look at the human scale. That brings us back to Marcus. Marcus is 42 years old. He lives outside Allentown, in the Lehigh Valley, one of the country's major warehousing and freight corridors. For 6 years, he worked as a regional operations manager for a large logistics network. He earns $85,000 a year, pays a mortgage, has 2 children in public school, and saves what he can each month. During the pandemic, his weeks regularly stretched toward 60 hours. Demand was extraordinary. U.S. retail e-commerce sales rose by 43% in 2020 compared with 2019. More recently, Marcus noticed a different pattern: a hiring freeze, efficiency reviews, merged departments, and consolidated regional hubs. Last Tuesday, Marcus was called into a brief virtual meeting. He was told that his position had been eliminated in an operational reorganization. Not because he had received a poor performance review. Because the role itself had been removed. Marcus is a composite, but the planned actions in the public records are not. And that evidence is not hidden. Part 2, the paper trail in the United States. The WARN Act makes some large employment actions visible before they take effect. It is called the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. The WARN Act. At the federal level, many employers with 100 or more employees must provide at least 60 calendar days of written notice before a covered plant closing or mass layoff. Coverage depends on the size and timing of the action and the number of employees affected at a single site. Exceptions can permit less notice, and some states impose broader requirements. The federal notice must go to affected workers or their representatives, the state dislocated worker unit, and the chief elected official of the relevant local government. Most people will never read a WARN filing. But if you want to see certain large layoffs before they appear in retrospective labor data, state WARN lists are one place to look. Published state by state, the notices can be one of the earliest public signals of where parts of the labor market may be moving. But they are not a national census. They miss many job cuts, and usually reveal more about what is planned than why. That distinction matters. Technology, retail, and logistics cuts can follow many different events: overhiring, a failed product, lost contracts, automation, site consolidation, or changing demand. A WARN notice shows an action, a place, and an expected date. Alone, it proves neither a national trend nor a company's full motivation. Read one notice, and you may be looking at a local event. Read many notices across states and industries, and a broader pattern may begin to emerge. Let's pause for a reality check. As of early August 2026, Pennsylvania's official WARN page included a planned closure affecting 1,485 workers at JBS Souderton, a 220-worker closure at Chandler Hall Health Services, a 173-worker closure at Central Admixture Pharmacy Services in Allentown, a 160-worker layoff at Pottstown Hospital, and a 147-worker closure at Transform Warehouse Operations. Those actions involve different employers and different notice and effective dates. The public list does not establish one common cause. They should not be collapsed into a claim that every listed worker became unemployed in the same month. The records document planned employment actions. They do not tell us how quickly affected workers find new jobs, whether some are reassigned, or what happens to each household afterward. That is the value of the data, and its limit. Part 3, the algorithm. So we have to ask the core question. Why? Official data still show American spending, real personal consumption expenditures increased by 0.4% in June 2026. So why do sites still close and jobs disappear? Because there is no single cause behind every notice. It is tempting to look for one villain. But the reality is more complicated, and, in some ways, colder. It comes down to incentives, operating costs, demand at a particular business or location, and, in many cases, the cost of capital. For long periods after the financial crisis, and again at the beginning of the pandemic, interest rates were exceptionally low. In March 2020, the Federal Reserve lowered its target range to between 0 and 0.25%. It began tightening policy in 2022 as inflation rose, making borrowing more expensive. Higher rates do not automatically cause layoffs, but they change the arithmetic. Expansion becomes harder to finance, underused facilities harder to justify, and margins and cash flow more important. Large operators track package volume, labor cost, facility use, delivery time, debt, and capital spending. Many networks expanded during the pandemic surge. By 2026, e-commerce was still growing, but no longer repeating 2020's extraordinary jump. The market remained, the comparison changed. National spending can increase while a particular route, facility, product category, or business unit becomes less economical. Both things can be true at the same time. This is not automatically evidence of a crash. Often, it is an organization balancing an equation. When an internal analysis concludes that closing older facilities, consolidating volume, or adding automation will lower the cost of each package, the financial logic points toward consolidation. Calling it the algorithm is shorthand. The decision usually combines software, financial targets, and human judgment. The algorithm does not see Marcus. It does not see his mortgage. It does not see the college fund he hopes to build for his children. It does not see 6 years of loyalty. It does not see the nights he stayed late when demand was at its highest. It does not see the moment he must go home and explain that the salary his family relied on is gone. It sees labor cost per package. It sees throughput per hour. It sees facility utilization. It sees whether the same work can be routed somewhere else for less. And once a person has been converted into a metric, a decision that changes an entire household can look like a small improvement in a spreadsheet cell. Part 4, the adaptation. So, what does this actually mean for you? The goal is not to panic. The goal is to understand the mechanics of the world around us so we can adapt. First, understand what each indicator can, and cannot, tell you. The unemployment rate is backward-looking, but it is not normally 2 months old. The Bureau of Labor Statistics usually releases it early the following month. A WARN notice can reveal a covered action before its effective date, often 60 days ahead, though exceptions apply. It is a signal, not a forecast. Search your state labor or workforce agency's official website for WARN notices. Check the notice date, effective date, worksite, number affected, and type of action. That gives you a partial local map, not a crystal ball. Second, reevaluate your vulnerability without assuming every job can be automated. If software can increasingly measure or standardize your core process, ask which parts of your value resist reduction to a metric. Judgment, accountability, relationships, technical depth, problem solving when the process breaks. Build those capabilities before a restructuring forces the decision for you. And finally, what happened to Marcus? In this composite story, Marcus did not predict the exact date, but he had noticed the internal signals. He reduced expenses and extended his 3-month emergency fund toward a 6-month runway. 2 weeks after the HR meeting, he began consulting for smaller regional operators that needed his expertise without a full-time executive hire. His severance bought time, his existing skills created another option. That does not make a layoff painless. It does make the next decision his. The American economy is a vast, interconnected machine. Right now, parts of that machine are shifting gears. The cardboard boxes will still arrive at your doorstep. The experience of seamless delivery may remain intact. Behind it, routes can be merged. Facilities can close. And roles can disappear without the customer noticing any immediate difference. The system is doing what it was designed to do. It is optimizing. The system isn't asking whether you're a good employee. It is asking something much simpler. Can your role be done cheaper? Tonight, ask yourself the same question. Don't believe me? Check the numbers yourself. Fact-check notes and sources, not part of the narration. Marcus is explicitly disclosed as a composite. His age, household, employment history, salary, internal emails, layoff meeting, financial preparation, and consulting outcome must not be presented as the biography of a real person. WARN coverage and limitations. The U.S. Department of Labor states that WARN applies to covered plant closings and mass layoffs, generally requires 60 calendar days of notice, has threshold rules and exceptions, and requires notice to affected workers or representatives, the state dislocated worker unit, and local government. Source: U.S. Department of Labor, Employment Law Guide. No single complete federal public database. WARN notices are submitted to state dislocated worker units and published through state systems with different formats and schedules. The Department of Labor provides state contacts rather than one comprehensive federal filing database. Source: U.S. Department of Labor, State Rapid Response Coordinators. Pennsylvania examples. The affected worker counts and action types in the reality check come directly from the state's 2026 listings. Source: Pennsylvania Department of Labor and AMP, Industry, WARN notices. Amazon, Walmart, and Federal Express, their presence in 2026 WARN records is supported by official state archives. Sources: Pennsylvania WARN notices, New Jersey 2026 WARN archive, and Arizona WARN search. Lehigh Valley Logistics context. Regional planning material identifies warehousing, logistics, manufacturing, and freight activity as major features of the area. Source: Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, 2025 Industrial Guide. Pandemic e-commerce surge. U.S. Census reported that retail e-commerce sales rose 43% in 2020 compared with 2019. Source: U.S. Census Bureau. E-commerce sales surged during the pandemic. E-commerce in 2026. Census estimated that first quarter 2026 retail e-commerce sales rose 2.7% from the fourth quarter of 2025. Source: U.S. Census Bureau. Quarterly retail e-commerce sales. Current consumer spending. BEA reported that real personal consumption expenditures increased 0.4% in June 2026. Source: U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. Personal income and outlays, June 2026. Interest rate context. The Federal Reserve lowered the federal funds target range to 0 to 0.25% in March 2020 and later describes its 2022 to 2023 shift toward restriction in response to elevated inflation. Sources: Federal Reserve Statement, March 15, 2020 and Federal Reserve Analysis of the Post-COVID Inflation Response. Employment data timing. BLS says the reference period generally includes the 12th of the month and the employment situation is usually released early the following month. Sources: BLS Concepts and Definitions and BLS Employment Situation Release Schedule. Removed statistic: the original claim of more than 37,500 cuts across 42 companies was not retained. The cited tracker count mixed U.S. and non-U.S. employers, immediate and multi-year plans, layoffs and voluntary exits. It could not support the narration that 37,500 American middle-class incomes were removed in 1 month. Removed causal claims. The revised script does not claim that a warn notice proves reduced consumer demand, that all layoffs are caused by interest rates or algorithms, or that a specific facility consolidation saves 14%. Public warn entries generally do not establish those conclusions on their own.